G'day guys, it is Rossco here from Supercoach Swordplay and Third Man Up over on Twitter. And today I just wanted to give you a quick run through of my game day squad starter reveal for round 3. Now, it is Friday as I'm recording this, so we have had the completed results of Essendon versus Port Adelaide, where the Bombers got a good win last night at Marvel Stadium. Now, that will be reflected in my side. I have some scores that I can sort of give you a bit of a rundown on. Who I was happy with, who I was disappointed with. I think there was more disappointment than happiness for me, as I'm sure some Supercoach players could tell as well. Now, before I get into it, though, I just wanted to give you a bit of an update regarding our reward code, Peanut. So if you're interested in jumping on Game Day Squad and beginning your journey today, then use the code Peanut, that's right, Peanut, for $20 worth of free packs. Now, an important bit of consideration that's been put into our attention from Tom and Cal from Game Day Squad is that we must be verifying our accounts with our Know Your Customer verification requirements. Now, I'll give you a quick rundown of what that means here. So as you can see down the bottom on the dashboard, if you sign up, we have the gap here for a referral code, Aussie rules, and you would be typing in Peanut Redeem. That's all good and well. Now, there is also a component of Know Your Customer verification, which is a simple process, one that I've completed already, which will allow you access to these packs. And it also makes sure that we are getting, the right amount of recognition for you guys using our packs as well. So if you are to go onto your dashboard here, clicking on your profile icon, you'll see the menu here. We've got Teams, Account, and Help. Very simply, you want to click on Verification here. So verification is also very important as it will allow you to withdraw any funds or any prizes that you win on Game Day Squad as well. It can't be done without verification. Click this verification button here. As you'll see, it will probably say my account is already verified. If I go proceed, yes, it does. So I'm already verified on here. That's done and dusted for me. But basically, it just takes you through to an external link where you provide documents such as your driver's license, and that just allows them to match up the details you signed up with to your actual details to prove that you are who you are. Obviously, with prizes coming out, they don't want to be paying out prizes to people who might be ineligible or for whatever reason aren't able to play the game. And it just keeps everything above board and, protects Game Day Squad in case anything were to occur as well. I'll drop a link in the description to the Game Day Squad guide on how to verify your account if you haven't done that already. But if you have any questions as well, then don't be afraid to ask us at all. And that is, of course, to use the code Peanut for those $20 worth of common player packs as well. Now, a quick look at the starter leaderboard here. Let's have a look where Third Man Up Rossco is, not near the top. We are currently sitting in 81st position with 339 points for the round. Now, I've had 4 players play, which is a little bit underwhelming, but with the result last night sort of going against Port Adelaide, I think the players that I expected to perform really well didn't really turn up. Now, there's a few that I'm looking at here when I go into my starter squad where I'm thinking, oh dear, what has happened? So we've got Connor Rosie here on a 91, which is actually quite decent, really, considering he scored slightly worse than that in other fantasy formats such as Supercoach. Nick Martin, who I thought would get a fair share of the ball, scored an 86. Now, I think he went a little bit better than this in other formats, along with the likes of Zach Reed, Jackson Pryor, who were able to get a lot of the ball as well. And then we also had in the forward line, Jason Horn-Francis, who had a miraculous last quarter to boost his score up a lot, but still only finished on 86. And Kane Farrell, who was averaging 104 coming into this game, who was knocked about a bit and only scored 76. So no tons there, which obviously puts me a little bit behind the 8 ball compared to some of the other squads in Game Day Squad starter leaderboard for this round so far. Some of these selections. So Dane Zorko to start off with. I know it's going to be wet tomorrow in Brisbane for their game against the Cats. Same thing goes for Max Holmes. But Geelong are generally not too great at defending against designated kickers. So last week, my boys got up over them at Marvel, and Nazaya Wangani Miller and Jack Sinclair went absolutely crazy. So Dane Zorko is one who I also recommended in my Captain's Corner video. Feel free to check that out on the channel as well with Janeth and DR. as a genuine Supercoach captaincy option. If we had the captaincy option in game day squad, Dane Zorko would be one I'd be very much looking at for that there. And as you can see, that 145.5 average just shows that he's gone nuts to start the season, and they have a great fixture on coming up as well. Next up is Carl Amon, another form man who comes up against what is a tricky-ish kind of matchup against GWS. However, a factor that I think does play into their favour is their game being played in Tasmania. So obviously that's a bit of a stronghold for the Hawks. I think it'll be tricky for the Giants to go down there and steal a win. And I have tipped the Hawks tomorrow as well for anyone that does footy tipping out there. So hopefully Carl Amon can continue this hot form and, give us another 123. That'd be really nice to make up for Farrell's 76, definitely. Moving on next, we've got Max Holmes, another player who should roll through the midfield for the Cats again against Brisbane. And I can see midfielders scoring really well, especially if it's wet, getting a lot of tackles, contested possessions, those sort of things. I think Holmes can chime up forward with a few goals as well, which should set him up for a nice score against Brisbane tomorrow. Now, my last two defenders here are Jordan Clark and Luke Ryan. Now, neither of these guys have started the season magnificently from a game day squad perspective, but with a matchup against the West Coast Eagles, I'm backing them in to go really, really big. And I'm backing in Brayshaw and Sarong as well. And I guess you could say as a whole, Fremantle to really, really, really bounce back against the Eagles. Derby match, must-win game. I think it's one where they need to restore some pride and they really need to get the job done. And these four players, Sarong, Brayshaw, Clark, and Ryan, are going to be key driving forces behind that and their ball movement if they are to do well. So good luck to any Freo supporters out there. Hopefully you guys can get the job done, and hopefully my Freo boys can play really, really well. Moving on to the midfield group now. Touched on Sarong and Brayshaw, but let's move on to Jordan Dawson. The form player, I believe he's the number one averaging midfielder or any position in game day squad so far this season, with his 156.5 average topping the charts. The Crows have been on fire. They've smacked the Saints, they've smacked the Bombers, and they come up against North Melbourne, who did win last week against the D's, but the week before that went down in a tough loss to the Bulldogs. Whether they will put up genuine opposition at Adelaide Oval against the Red Hot Crows is yet to be seen, but I still think it plays well into Dawson's hands, even if North Melbourne come and perform, to still have a big game, playing in front of his home crowd, teams on form. I think it suits him really, really well. Next player is Noah Anderson. Now, we refer to him on the channel as the Noah Coaster, as his scoring can sometimes go up and down like a roller coaster. He scored 133 in the Suns' only game so far against the Eagles away from home at Optus, and they play away from home again at the MCG against the Demons, who got comprehensively smacked against North Melbourne last week at Marvel. Now, whether that was Marvel Stadium, North Melbourne being good, Melbourne having an off day, it's not really clear the number of factors, what's contributed sort of more often than not to that bad performance by the Ds. But I think the Suns could be the real deal this season. They could very well come out and stink it up and prove me wrong. But Noah Anderson is going to be the driving force behind that. And if they had to come away with a win at the MCG tomorrow, I think he has to play a big game. So I'm backing him in to go again. Go well, Noah. Last of all, in my midfield group, going with Tom Liberatore. Now, they have a matchup against Carlton later on tonight, which is one that I'm very interested to see because Carlton have obviously started the season in very shaky form. And the Bulldogs haven't particularly been much better. They were gritty against North Melbourne, and then they lost by a goal to Collingwood last week, albeit probably with their VFL side. Liberatore has gone really well, though, and he's averaging 124.5. And against Carlton's midfield, which is a very tricky matchup generally for midfielders, I still think his role without Bontempelli, without Trelaw, is too good to pass up for game day squad. And I'd be very happy to have him in my midfield group. Now, moving on to my ruck line, I've got a big pod as my second ruck here, Oscar McInerney. We'll get to him in a second. First of all, going with Rowan Marshall, I can see St Kilda having a positive matchup against Richmond tomorrow. Hopefully we can get the job done, win that game, and Marshall can have another big game and really, really go well. But on to Oscar McInerney. I think with the wet game in Brisbane tomorrow, and Geelong probably playing with Sam De Koning, maybe Reece Stanley in the ruck. I think it bodes really well for McInerney to go well above that 99 average and drop a big score. Now, I have seen him written about as a pod option on another article in the Game Day Squad Discord. So shout out to you guys. I've decided after reading that, I'm going to back him in, have a roll of the dice, throw at the stumps, and see how we go with big Oscar McInerney. So he will be my pod of the week coming into this round of Game Day Squad. Hopefully he can go 150, sit in there in ruck 2, and have a really strong game for us. Now, my forward line is sort of moving on to players that I don't necessarily think have the greatest matchups, but I think could be most consistent scorers across a sort of season. Now, it hasn't really changed much from my other team reveal videos. We've got Jack McRae with a very favourable matchup against Richmond, Caleb Daniel with a very favourable role, taking the kick-ins and distributing across the back half for North Melbourne, as you can see by that 122.5 average. Bailey Smith, coming off injury, he should hopefully play. Chris Scott said he's a lock to play. Let's see if there's mind games. I have a plan for him if he comes out. We've obviously got a game-by-game rolling lockout, planning to switch him over to Luke Parker, which means that my North and Adelaide game on Sunday will be a very fun watch for me from a Game Day Squad perspective. We've also got 2 Crows boys in Ben Keys and Isaac Rankin. Now, playing against North, favourable matchup, and they've both started the season like a house on fire. Even though Rankin got subbed off last week, I think it was more for management purposes, and I can see them scoring really well again. We've got Toby Green as my last player who hasn't played yet in my forward line, and I think that he can go really well against the Hawks. Down in Tassie, tough game, but they're coming off a bye. He should be fresh, raring to go. The Giants have also got Stringer back, which I think could help take a bit of attention off Toby Green, and that could turn that 0 into a 1-2-0 for Toby. Hopefully that is the case, and we'll see how we go. Last but not least, as I touched on earlier, we've got Jason Horne-Francis, who is one who I was thoroughly disappointed with, although it did look a lot worse at three-quarter time. He obviously got around the ball, kicked that goal in the last quarter yesterday, and lifted his scoring a lot. So that is my starter squad. I want you to drop in the comments, if you're on Game Day Squad, how many of these players you share in your starter squad. I think it's really interesting because there's not necessarily one template for players you can go for. Obviously, there's Zach Merritt, who went huge last night. Don't have him in. I've actually just acquired him in a trade this morning, sort of got FOMO and gone, I think he's one that I really need to have. Obviously, we've got Tristan Cherry, we've got Max Gawn, Jared Witts, Toby Nankervis, Tom De Koning. There's a plethora of options how you can play and how you can select your side in Game Day Squad, which makes it really, really variable. Very rarely do you have 2 people with the same side, which means I don't think any of you are going to have the same 22 as me. But you might have 10, you might have 6, you might have 3. So drop a comment below how many you think you have in your starter squad, which are the same as mine. Now, while we're here, I'll move over to my classic team here, which is with a 12.5 salary cap, a bit more expensive than the starters. And as you can see, we've got a few more golds, a few more silvers, and we've even got a platinum in there as well. So breaking this down for you, I don't really have a matchup by matchup basis. This is more finding value in who I think can go really, really well based on the price. So we've got Jordan Clark in there again. Kane Farrell, disappointing with the 76. In terms of the silvers and golds, I think McGovern, really good designated kicker, playing against Freo, positive matchup. Hopefully he can raise that up. Same with Wagner going the other way, playing against the Eagles. Hopefully he can get a lot of the ball as well. Bowie, playing against the Suns, has started the season really well. And at a silver price tag to get him in with the salary cap, I thought it was a no-brainer. I've targeted some Geelong matchups here with Neil and Berry in the midfield. And we've also targeted Richmond with Jack Steele, going with Clayton Oliver against the Suns, Jai Newcomb and Patrick Cripps in trickier games, along with James Sicily, where they play against GWS, and these guys play against the Western Bulldogs here. I've put my silver Rowan Marshall in, so I've backed him in with a silver card here. And instead of going for whoever it was I had on my starter bench, Oscar McInerney, I've gone a bit safer with Tom De Koning. I think he can still have a really strong game against the Dogs tonight, playing against Tim English, who generally does lead points to Ruckman. And I think it's, a bit of a safer selection than the pod selection in starter, but I do need the upside in starter as well. My platinum selection, Luke Jackson. Hopefully he's rucking this weekend because that could give him a lot of points from hitouts, chop forward, a couple of goals. And with this platinum here, 204 out of 500. No, I don't want to swap him out. I want to look at his numbers. 1.3 times multiplier. He scored 105 and 115. If he can get to 130, 150, then look out. That sets me up for a really big score there in the forward line. Same goes with Thilthorpe and Curtis playing each other in that Crows North game on Sunday. I can see it being high scoring. I can see Thilthorpe especially kicking a big bag against North. Hopefully Paul Curtis can continue his hot form, chime in with a couple of goals. Then we've got Matthew Kennedy playing midfield against Carlton. Sam Darcy, who, as we know, had a huge game last week. Quickly check his numbers. He got 122 with his 4 goals. Really, really good game from him. And then we've got Luke Parker in here. I've also got a duplicate Luke Parker who, as I said, will swap out for Bailey Smith if necessary. To finish off the starter squad, I've gone for Jeremy Cameron, who I just think is a chance to bob up at any time, kick a goal, and, maybe even kick a bag, see how he goes. Hopefully it is all the best. I'll quickly show you as well my Challenger squad. Completely not expecting to win anything with this squad, but it's just cool to show you a couple of the players I've picked up through auctions, through buying them on the market, these sorts of things here. So I've got 200,000 left in the salary cap. But as you can see, my golds are not the best. Michael, Annie, Miller, and Sin went all right with 101. But here's where it's made. Jack Sinclair, Wangani Miller, and Salem, Diamond, Platinum, and Platinum. Then we've got a Diamond, Blake Acres, Platinum Hewitt, Platinum Dunkley, Sparrow Drew, and a Platinum Will Day, which is nice as well, even though I think he will cop the Bedford tag. Platinum Lloyd Meek, and Ivan Soldo Gold, who scored a stinky 36 after being subbed out. I don't think he'll be in my team next week, and I don't think he'll be in Port Adelaide's team either, for that matter. Darcy Byrne-Jones Gold with a nice 108. Then we've got a Diamond Jack Silvani, the rest of golds as well. Sharman and Hall versus Richmond, Mansell versus the Saints, and Brian Myers, who has a tricky matchup against the Lions, but has started the season really well with that 115 average. Now, I've dropped Bedford in here on my bench as well, thinking he'll tag Will Day. Hopefully that can lead to a positive score for him as well. So those are my squads for round 3 of Game Day Squad. Keep your eyes peeled for a pack opening on the channel. And as you can see here, I'm 87th on the Challenger leaderboard. Let's go with Classic. 432nd, only 76 points. Going to need to lift that up a little bit, Rossco. But starter is where I'm really, really focusing. 81st with 339 points. Hopefully we can get a few big ones and really, really lift myself up. I'd love to finish in the top 3, obviously. Top 10, top 50 would be really nice. Now, before we finish up, keep your eyes peeled on the channel for another pack opening. Hoping to drop that as well later on. And don't forget to use the code PEANUT. With that code, you will get a 3 times 9 player common pack here, valued at over $20. As you can see, we've got 61% chance of getting a silver, but you've got that 1.23% chance pulling diamond, 6.17% chance of pulling a platinum, 30.86% of pulling a gold. Now, that's obviously some good odds for a starter player. Don't forget, you're going to get some starter packs as well. Plenty of bronzes to start off your trading journey. These packs as well will be really good to get you into Classic and Challenger squads as well. Although I think at the early stages of the game, it is always good to focus on the Classic squad especially. Let's have a look. I got a notification here. Matthew Kennedy. I traded a duplicate Kennedy and picked up a Zach Merritt. So that's lovely that that's gone through. Here we go. All right. Don't forget to use that code PEANUT for $20 worth of packs and to verify yourself using the Know Your Customer verification through your dashboard over here on the right. If you have any questions about that, then feel free to ask in the comments below. I'll also drop a link to that and the Game Day Squad Discord in the description as well. So thanks for watching, guys. All the best with your Game Day Squad and your other fantasy for round 3. Thank you.